In the last session that we had, we talked about what is ethical, what is considered to be ethical, and what do we mean by ethics. And then we tried to talk about ethics in context of business world and business affairs, and we talked about ethical business practices. I hope you remember that we also talked about some of the frequently seen unethical business practices by so many firms, and I gave you some examples as well. Now today we are going to discuss in very brief as to what are the causes for these kind of unethical business practices. What leads to companies going for these unethical business conduct? There has got to be some cause, so we are going to look at those causes, and then we'll look at the consequences also. The causes have been shown here: pursuit of personal gain, wealth and selfish interests. Now what do we mean by this? Many a times the objective is to gain something. It could be status, it could be wealth, it could be some selfish interest. Many a times companies tend to exaggerate their profit figures, or they tend to window dress their accounts to paint a rosier picture of their financial condition, while the financial condition is not that good. It is made to look like relatively better. Why do the companies do this? Because naturally, if a company is being traded publicly, it is a listed firm in various stock exchanges, then naturally if good news comes out, naturally it will lead to increase in demand for the company's shares, and the share prices of the company will increase. On the other hand, if there is a bad news regarding company's prospects in the market, naturally people would want to offload its shares. The investors would want to just sell their shares, and this is something that the company doesn't want. So what they do is they generally tend to paper over bad piece of news and exaggerate their profit figures, or exaggerate their revenue figures, or exaggerate the success of their newly launched product in the market. So this is one reason why companies engage in unethical business practices. I have discussed the case of Satyam, which was falsely reporting its financial data, and it did that so that the share prices may remain at a higher plane. So that was the whole objective behind that particular unethical move by Satyam, and this was way back in around 2009 and 10. And many a times the subordinates have to face pressure to meet targets. So they have been set targets, and these targets are very stiff, and the subordinates feel under pressure, and they have no option but to engage in unethical behavior to meet those targets. For example, think of a subordinate who has been asked to sell, let's say, 10 cars in a particular month. So this is a salesman who has been asked to sell at least 10 cars in a month, and suppose by the last week of a particular month he has only been able to sell 6. What will he do? If the target is very stiff for him and he risks facing some kind of problems in case he is not able to achieve the target. If he feels that his career graph in the company might be adversely impacted if he is not able to meet the targets, or he would not be promoted if he is not able to meet the targets, then what will he do? He will then be forced to engage in unethical business conduct, unethical business practice. What would he do? He would try to mis-sell it to a customer who does not want that particular car. He would try to mis-sell the cars to the customer by promising much more than the company can provide the customer. So he would go to the customer and he would promise much more than the company can actually offer to the customer, or he would offer much greater discount than the company is offering, just to get the car sold, just to ensure that the customer purchases the car, and this way he'll be able to meet his target. So many a time subordinates, they are under the pressure to meet the very stiff targets which have been set for them, and because of this they they engage in unethical behavior. Many times this also happens with the people working with the insurance firms. Many a times their targets are very stiff. It happens with the branch managers. Many a times the branch managers are given target regarding how many saving accounts have to be opened up, how many loans have to be distributed. So if they are not able to meet the target, if they feel they would not be able to meet the target, if they go in the normal fashion, then what will they do? They will start engaging in unethical conduct just to meet the target. Now this is one major problem which happens. So whenever the management decides to give the subordinates some target, they have to make sure that the subordinates are not forced to engage in unethical business conduct just to meet those targets. The targets should be difficult, but they should not be unreachable, right? So this is one more reason why companies and people working in the companies, workers generally engage in unethical business practices. Then company cultures also promote, I hope you remember that we talked about how ethics depend on the culture of the firm. We talked about how ethical conduct is also defined by which community you are coming from or which culture you belong to, because what is ethical in one culture may not be ethical in some other culture. What is ethical in one particular community in particular country may not be ethical in some other country or some other, and we have talked about examples also. Now the same is true for different companies. What is ethical in one company may be absolutely unethical in some other company. In some company it is expected par for the course to engage in unethical behavior like bribing the customers, for example. I talked about this kind of an example yesterday. I hope you remember the last example that we talked about, wherein a company which was trying to sell the helicopters, defense helicopters to Indian government, they tried to bribe the Indian bureaucrats just to back the order. So many a times, many of the companies you would find that this would be considered absolutely ethical, and naturally there the employees would be more ready to display this kind of unethical conduct. On the companies, in the case of other companies which consider it absolutely unethical and they have a very very strict policy regarding unethical business conduct, no employee would even think of engaging in these kind of activities, engaging in bribing the customer, for example, or engaging in duping the customer, mis-selling to him. So this also depends on the company culture, and that is why you would find that employees from different companies, many a times they show different conduct. For example, they display different conduct. For example, one would only sell you after understanding your requirements. There could be a company from which a salesperson is coming and he would only sell to you the product after understanding your requirements, and he would not make any false claims about the quality of his product or the potency of his product or the reliability of his product. On the other hand, then you would also come across salespersons from a different company who would be ready to make any false claims just to ensure that you buy their products. So this also depends on the company also. I hope you remember one example which was one advertisement campaign was run by Bajaj Allianz. It is an insurance firm. It's a joint venture operating in India. So this was an advertisement campaign which was run around 2 to 3 years ago. Now in this particular campaign, what was shown, please understand, basically at that point of time the perception of insurance agents was that generally they try to mis-sell the product, mis-sell the policy, insurance policy. They would keep heckling the customer until unless he buys one policy. They would keep bothering him, and then they would keep disturbing him every now and then until unless he agrees to buy the policy. So they showed in their ad that their people, their insurance agents just don't indulge in these kind of behaviors. So what were they trying to show? They were trying to show that our employees, our salespersons are going to deal with you in a more ethical fashion, right? What I'm trying to tell you is, when they are showing this kind of ad, you can understand this kind of ad is being shown which which probably gives you a hint that Bajaj Allianz, as far as their definition of ethical conduct is concerned, their definition of ethical conduct would certainly include behaving and treating the customer with respect and not misinforming him about the product features or about the product quality. Right? So what I'm trying to tell you is this is the case with Bajaj Allianz, but then there could be so many other companies where the seniors would be okay with their subordinates mis-selling to the customer, misinforming him, exaggerating the product benefits, and dealing in all kind of unethical business practices. So that would depend a lot on the culture of the company also. Now, what are the consequences? Is it that unethical business behavior you are engaging in so that you can increase your profits, so that you are able to increase your revenue earnings in the market, so that you are able to survive in the market? But does that actually happen when you go for unethical business conduct? What might happen? Let us discuss the consequences. The consequences can be very many. For example, it may damage the company image. Until unless it is caught, it is perfectly fine. The moment these kind of unethical business practices are caught, they came to light. Until unless they come to light and people get to know about them, till then it is perfectly fine. But the moment they come to light and people get to know about them, the customers get to know about them, there would be an irreparable damage to the company's image, company's reputation. And this would be a damage that would impact the company's prospects not only for the time being but for all the time to come in future. Why? Because people would always say that particular company was caught engaging in this kind of unethical business conduct, and that would cause a permanent harm to the company or to the company's image or to the reputation of the company. Now, so engaging in unethical business conduct is a very, very risky affair. Till the point of time people don't get to know about it, it is perfectly fine, and you would keep enjoying the fruits of engaging in unethical business conduct. But the moment it is caught, and which happens on a very regular and frequent basis, the moment these kind of unethical business practices are caught and they come to light, people get to know about them, customers get to know about them, the government and regulatory agencies come to know about them. After that, it is just not possible to enjoy the same kind of reputation which existed earlier before these unethical business practices came to light. So it's a very, very risky affair. Again, as I said, it may repulse the customers. Customers may decide never to buy, never to engage in any transaction with such companies who have been known for unethical business practices. It not only repulses the customer but also repulses the creditors, because they know that since these companies are engaging in unethical business practices, they may at some point of time get caught and they would have to suffer losses in the market, and they may not be able to return the loan. And that is why even creditors are not very enthusiastic about lending to such companies. Even prospective employees. Now think of yourself. Supposing you have been given an opportunity to work with a reputed firm who is, let's say, paying you, that particular firm is which is paying you, let's say, rupees 10,000 a month. And on the other hand, you get an opportunity to work with a less well-known firm which has been earlier indicted in some unethical business practices, and they are known for shady dealings, but they are offering you 15,000. Which company would you want to work with? Because you know that if I go and work with an unethical company, you never know, they might also treat me as an employee unethically, and they might mistreat me, they might not give me my salary on time, they might not pay me my dues on time. And naturally you would be wary of working with these kind of firms. So it also drives away the prospective employees, the prospective candidates who might apply for various jobs in the company. So in that sense, the recruitment selection cost for the company also increases. Again, there might be costly lawsuits also. The customers may go to the court demanding compensation, demanding damages, asking for compensation for the various damages because of the unethical business practices. So this is one more issue that can come up if you are engaging in unethical business practices, and there are so many examples of this kind of thing happening in the market. So many a times people go to the consumer forum, they go to the court demanding damages because of the unethical business practices of the firm. And as I said, it is very, very difficult. Once you lose your reputation in the market, once your image in the market is impacted, it is very, very difficult for you to make up for the loss, because then the reputation is going to be very, very tough and it's going to be very time consuming. So once the reputation is lost, once there is an impact on your image, it is going to cause problem to you for a very long time to come. So though unethical business practices might bring you profits in the short term, they may be very, very risky in the long run, and they may also impact your company's prospects in the long run. And that is why unethical business conduct is not a very advisable thing. Companies who behave in an ethical fashion, they are always liked by the customers. They always gain from the goodwill that they have generated among the customers. Plus, they are not even targeted by the regulatory agencies because they are known for ethical business conduct. Even the governments and the various ministries and the bureaucrats listen to them because they've been known for ethical business conduct. So conducting your business ethically is always going to prove profitable for you in the long run, right? Now let us talk about some ethical Indian businesses which are known for conducting their business in an ethical fashion. Very recently a report was released, and I have basically taken a snapshot of that particular newspaper report, and you can see here on the top right corner. Now have a look. This is a news from Economic Times, and it is dated 18th of March 2020, almost 3 months back. And it talked about the study which was conducted some times back, and that study came to the conclusion that among the top ethical companies in the whole world at the global level, India's two firms also rank among the top. So these two firms are Wipro, which is known for its presence in the software services industry. It is also known for its presence in the electrical appliance industry. Tata Steel, a company from the Tata group. So these two companies were ranked among the world's most ethical companies. Naturally, when this newspaper report comes out, naturally it would also be a free of cost publicity for these companies, because people will get to know. So naturally they would be able to generate. So that is what I'm trying to tell you, how engaging in ethical business conduct can be profitable for you in the long run. See, this news report is coming out. So this will be a free of cost publicity. No cost incurred by Wipro, Tata Steel. They don't have to incur any cost, but still they are able to generate goodwill among the customers. Even those customers who are not their direct customers. You are not going to purchase steel directly from Tata Steel, but then it will create some kind of goodwill among the masses, and it will certainly improve their prospects in the market, improve their sales, and improve their prospects in the market. So this was one example of the companies which are known across the world for their ethical conduct as far as Indian business firms are concerned. And now second example I have taken up of Infosys. Now Infosys, you know, again, along with Wipro and TCS, which is again a Tata group company, Tata Consultancy Service. So we've got Tata Consultancy Service, TCS, Infosys and Wipro. These are the top three firms as far as Indian software services are concerned, software sector is concerned. And even Infosys is known for its ethical business conduct. Now this is a picture of the code of conduct that they have published on their website. Now this is a document which is known as the code of conduct. Now have a look at the heading. The heading is here. Have a look. Now this is the code of conduct, and this is a document. I have taken this document directly from their website. You can have a look at the URL. Now this is the URL. You can go and search on your own. So Now this is a particular document which is called the Code of Conduct, and Code of Conduct is basically some kind of guidelines for its employees as to how to behave, what is expected of them, what is ethical in this particular company, what is considered unethical, what is considered proper, what is considered improper. I hope you remember the discussion yesterday. Therein I talked about the distinction between what is right, what is wrong. Now, just to make the employees clear about what this particular company thinks is right and what this particular company thinks is wrong, what is proper, what is improper, they've come up with a full code of conduct. You can have a look at this particular document, see the number of pages which are shown here, 44. So you can understand this must be a relatively bulky document, and it actually mentions all those behaviors which are expected of their employees, and employees are expected to adhere to these kind of guidelines, to the points mentioned in the code of conduct. And have a look at some of the important points. I have highlighted some of them. Respecting each other, and have a look at what has been written under respecting each other. An equal opportunity workplace. An equal opportunity workplace free of discrimination or harassment. So we are talking about giving equal opportunity not only to males and females, both the genders, or males and females and the third gender as well. Likewise, we are talking about equal opportunity to all sections of the society, maybe different religious denominations. So whatever is your religious denomination, whatever is your gender, whatever is your community that you come from, or whichever country you belong to, because Infosys is a multinational firm and they have employees across the world. So they include employees from America also, they include employees in Australia also. So there also, so this, regardless of which particular country you are coming from, everybody would be treated equally. And the only thing that will impact the employee outcomes, the results that the employee obtain, the only thing would be their own performance. So how well somebody performs will determine his trajectory in the organization, will determine the level to which this particular person can rise in the organization. And it would not depend on a particular, whether you belong to a particular community or a particular gender. It would depend only and only on your performance. So a company which values meritocracy, it only promotes people who are meritorious. So, and no other discrimination is made between the employees. So this is one thing that is crystal clear from this particular point. Now have a look at the, okay, I'll discuss one more aspect which I have forgotten, the harassment point. Now I hope you remember, and I have talked about this particular example in one of my earlier sessions. So there is going to be no harassment. Many a times, what kind of harassments generally take place? Sexual harassments are very common in many of the organizations. The female employees are sexually harassed. Then there is harassment of the subordinates also by the seniors, by the supervisors. So they are saying that this is a workplace which does not promote such harassment, and they are very strict against these kind of harassment. So this is just the index page that I've shown here of the code of conduct. Actually, if you actually read it in detail, you would find number of points mentioned. So I have just given you a snapshot of their index page, just to give an idea as to how the ethical companies behave and what kind of guidelines do they have for their employees. Now have a look at the second aspect, ethics in our business activities. So whatever business activities they will do, they will engage, whatever the business activities they do, they will always conduct those business activities in an ethical fashion, and that is what they are talking about here. So this particular point stretches from page number 4 to probably page number 14. So this has been mentioned here. Now, for example, preventing corruption. Now have a look at this, preventing corruption. So what all gifts can be given to the customers? There might be a customer of mine. Can I offer him gift, and can this be offered as an inducement so that he awards me the order? So all these things have been specified here, and clear-cut guidelines have been given to the employees as to what is considered ethical and what is something that you should engage in, and what would be considered unethical and you should keep away from. So these are the guidelines here. So whether the corruption will be encouraged. So no encouragement to prevention corruption. Again, gifts and entertainment probably to the customers so that you may bag their orders. So all these things have been mentioned here. Then we have got commitment to customers and suppliers. So the commitment is not only to customers but also to suppliers. Fair dealings. So they are talking about fair dealings. Again, how do they deal with confidential information of third parties, of clients and third parties? So many a times, for example, suppose they are preparing a software for a firm. Naturally, the firm will have to provide them some confidential information. So what do they do with this? They have the opportunity to give it away to somebody else and earn from that confidential information in the marketplace. But then they would never do this, and this has been mentioned in the document, that they would keep their confidential information of their clients, of their suppliers or third parties very, very secure, and they would certainly not let it leak out, let that information leak out. So this way they are not mistreating their suppliers or not mistreating their clients and ensuring that their confidentiality. So the client is being assured that their confidential information would certainly not be disclosed to others, and they would not lose out in the marketplace just because their confidential information has been leaked out by their company. So this is another thing which they do. Free and fair competition. So they're talking about free and fair competition. So with this we have come to the end of this particular discussion on ethical business practices and unethical conduct. Now, I hope you have now a considerable idea about what is considered ethical, what is unethical, and what do we mean by ethical business conduct. How can unethical business conduct might just prove to be profitable in the short run, but it might be very, very costly for your firm. It might cost your firm a lot in the long run. And we have also talked about some of the examples which are there of Indian companies behaving in a very, very ethical fashion, conducting their business in a very, very ethical fashion. And there are so many examples of companies like this, just like there are examples of companies in India who have been indicted for unethical business conduct, right? So the idea is that you should now that you have understood this particular section, this particular topic, I hope that you would supplement your answers whenever you are asked this kind of a question wherein you are asked about ethics and ethical business practices. You would be able to supplement your answers with whatever you are reading in the newspapers, because in newspapers you will keep on getting these kind of news items, right? So thank you very much for your time, and now we will be moving on to the last topic in this particular unit, which would be corporate governance, that we'll be taking up in the next session. Fine, thank you.